What up, nerds? So I'm back. It's Tuesday. I know I said I would get back to this on Thursday, but I lied. I just got busy. So anyway, I'm about to tear into the SRT4, change its driver's side axle, and show you the process of what I'm doing to this. Some of my personal tips and tricks that I do, because I've done a lot of these. Not on an SRT, but a lot on first gens, some second gens. My Caravan I've done a bunch, and I just have a couple things that I do maybe a little bit differently, maybe the same as a bunch of other people. I don't know, it's just things that I do that make my own life easier. So anyway, let me show you what I'm up to. Alright, so first off, you need to bust the wheel off, whichever way you're going to do it. I'm just going to use my impact gun because that's just how I do things. I actually have a different set of lug nuts I want to slap onto this thing. These lug nuts are from the parts store and they kind of suck. Then you got to get that little cotter pin out the way. I just usually take a little flathead and bend it around. I'm not really watching what I'm doing, so. And then a pair of pliers to finish it up the rest of the way. You gotta get that axle nut off. It's a 32. Should just come right off with this. There it is. I want to keep this little spring that's inside of here. I almost forgot the most important part. Yeah, to drain the transmission fluid. Now this drain bolt right here is actually an 8mm hex. So if you have an 8mm Allen, it would work. But I don't have one. And I'm not going to tell you that a T50 Torx fits perfectly in its place. And I'm not going to tell you that a T50 Torx is going to work just fine. But that's what I'm doing. It looks like I got some fluid leaks to chase down under here. I wonder if the other axle is leaking. I guess we'll see when we get this fluid out, how much we have in here. Now this should be brown and not red. Yep. So at the Mopar factory at some point in the early 2000s, they decided to do away with the manual transmission fluid option that they had and just put ATF in everything. And it worked okay for the pedestrian cars, like cars that just got beat around the bush every day. But for anything that was in a performance application, after 20 or 30,000 miles, you'd start to have issues with shifting. You'd start to get locked out of gears. And it turns out that ATF does not make very good MTF, or manual transmission fluid. And then when they introduced the SRT4 in 2003, they couldn't convince the bean counters to put back in the manual transmission fluid dispensers because it's going to save, like 15 cents per car or something. I don't remember the exact numbers. So people over the years have done shootouts of, well, I use this fluid, I use this. Some people use Mobile One, high mileage, it has extra zinc in it, or some people would use Royal Purple or Redline or whatever. I just use pennzoil synchromesh and everything. That's what I put in my T850 or my T350s. That's what I'm putting in my T850. That just seems to have relatively good success with everybody that I've talked to about it. It's a very accessible fluid. You can get it at AutoZone for $10 a quart right now in 2022. It's pretty easy. It's actually very similar to It's like a 10W30 weight with more junk in it. And 10W30 is what you actually just dump into the old Turbo Dodge transmissions, the manual transmissions. So like my minivan, when it starts to act up and shift funny, that means I got to add, you know, like a half a quart of 10W30 into its transmission case. So that's why that fluid was dark and not red, because Keith did his research and put in a good manual transmission fluid and not ATF plus 4, which makes a horrible manual transmission fluid. So anyway, let's get this axle out. Oh, and you know, before you get the axle out, let's put our drain plug back in. And I'm going to obviously put this in with an 8mm hex and a torque wrench and torque it down to 15 or 17 foot-pounds. I don't know. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just going to put it in there and snug it up. Yeah, it's pretty good for a plug. Let's take a gander at this fluid real quick. See what we look like. Come in here with me. Now, we'll be honest, it's not going to look great because I had some schmutz in here that I didn't clean out, but fluid itself is just, it's a little dark, but it only had like 30,000 miles on it, so I think any of the milky look in here is from the water that was in here, so I'm not really worried about it. I think we're good. Let's get the axle out. What I like to do first is just get this loose while everything's still tight. Make sure that that's going to break free from the hub as easily as you want it to. And you can see it's rocking around in there. Now I got to get these strut knuckle bolts loose. Here's one little trick that I do when I'm doing these strut knuckles. I like to make reference marks so I can try and get the alignment matched back up. Do it here and maybe across the top as well. That way, when I'm ready to put it back together, it'll be easy. I can just line these back up and be good to go. Now I have coilovers on here, so your mileage might be different. I have old school Image Performance Plus coilovers, but this is just a 22mm socket. I'll get the top one out, now the bottom one don't want to come out. This is not easy to do with one hand, I'll tell you that. Put the nut back on it and smacked it with a dead blow hammer, and then it just popped right out. So now we need to separate that from the knuckle. That was easy. So the best way I've personally found is to try and just pull this down and push the axle in as far as you can. Basically need to simultaneously push down, pull the axle out this way while you push down, and then work it up. Let's see if I can get a second angle going. As you get the axle out, you basically are going to work it along the edge here and just kind of simultaneously push down with one hand and lift up and just work it around everything that's in here. It's like doing a little dance, but you'll make it through. Yep, there it is. There's that. The end of that axle is basically a cup, and on the inside of it there's a C-clip that retains it inside the transmission. You basically just need to get a breaker bar in there, in between the transmission and the axle, and just pop it out. But that's not always the easiest thing to do. Alright. this. Oh, that just came out. I really thought I was going to have a fight on my hands. My guess is that these had been done before. Or at least have been out. Because it just came right out. So it's not going to fit through here. So I got to kind of dance it up around. It'll fit through over here. Here we go. Now I can show you how this is bad. So while I was driving, this is spinning, and I kept hearing that slight click. But when I would get up to speed, it was making that right there. And that at however many RPMs is terrifying. So this is just donezo. Now luckily I have an advanced auto axle from years ago I can just jam in here. So let's reverse this installation. Now when you get your new axle, you're going to want to examine it. It comes with a bunch of stuff. It comes with a new axle nut usually and nothing else. Make sure that you have the right side. And that's the side that's going to go in the transmission. It's got the C-clip on it. Let's go ahead and get that started. At first glance, this axle looks like it might be a touch shorter than the other one. I'm still going to put it in and see if it works. Also, this ground wire is broken and my ABS wire is broken. But I'm going to choose to ignore those for now. So I get the axle in, you just put the side with the C-clip in the transmission, twist it to line it up, and just give it a little. And just kind of twist around until it lines up, and then eventually it'll just lock into place. Sometimes it's a little annoying to do, so what I'll do is I'll not send it home, but I'll give it a little. There it goes. There it goes. And just walk this into the cup. And kind of twist this around. Yeah, I think that's fine. So I'm not going to need this or the old axle nut because I have a new axle nut that acts as both of those. So I need the big flat washer, a little spring washer, this, and then yep. Just get a little, just line that up. It really doesn't even need this little piece, but this car I think could use it. So this is gonna get on my nerves and it's not gonna go back in. Come on. Come on. Why are you acting like this? You always act up in front of company, don't you? There we go. I think that's going to be good enough. That's what Dot says. Dot says it's good enough. Isn't that right, Dot? That's not good. Get the call on that side good. This back around. Now, I gotta get those through, and that's not gonna be fun. Oh, geese are migrating. My dogs hate birds. You get this up. This is not I'll tell you, this is not easy to do. Especially when I can't really see what I'm doing. There we go. There's that there. Bottom one still got that. Still, I can't get it out yet. So let's put it through. Maybe if I run it home with the impact, it'll start get itself together a little bit. Oh yeah, this is where my alignment marks come into play. The top one worked better than the bottom, I'll tell you that. Bottom ones always look good from the front, so the top ones are where it's at. That's about right there. I just happen to have a 22. The top one is not lined up, so I gotta loosen this back up. Let's see if I can bring you in here. I made these marks across the top. Alright, that's not quite lined up. So we'll just a little. Oh, I gotta loosen the bottom one just a hair more too. Maybe that is going to be as good as it gets. Let me twist the steering wheel so it's straight again. Alright, so there's that. And then, yeah. Here's that. And then, oh, we got to put the transmission fluid in it. So, let's find where that goes. Ah, squish my marker. Oh. Did it pop out the top? No. Maybe I can live for a while. Good Lord. Golly. So it got dark on me pretty quick, but right there, that little thing right there is the rubber plug, and that's the fill plug for the transmission. So let's get that ripped off, and then we'll... God, the dogs are going off in there. Let's get that popped off, and we'll get this transmission filled up. You can just grasp it and give it a little twist and a pull. Take two. Just kind of grab it, give it a pull. Yeah, it pops right out. I have a bunch of this clear tubing, and I'll take this and stub it into the transmission, and then I can actually see what I'm doing as far as it filling. Oh, it has a boost leak. That's cool. Maybe I'll fix that and it'll go faster. That's the pennzoil synchromesh, and that's the lid. So what I'll usually do is just take this off, chop it up a little bit, and then stub it into a tube so I can watch what I'm doing. I like having a little bit of control over the scenario rather than just letting it, you know, run buck wild down in there. So yeah, this is pretty much what I come up with. I haven't torn the aluminum out of here yet, so it's not going to drain, but this is what I do to rig this up so I can control the flow a little bit while it drains down into the transmission. So let's get this going. Well, not the best angle, but working with what we got here. So it's going from there all the way down and into the transmission. You can squeeze it if you're careful, but you don't want to squeeze too fast because it might overflow where it's going into the transmission. So you gotta be a little careful. It's like a balancing act. Get this second one going. Alright, so remember that part where I said it takes 2.5 quarts? Well, this is where it gets a little hairy. There is a marker on the side to denote how much fluid there is. There's 32 ounces in a quart. Yeah, 32 ounces in a quart, 16 ounces in a half quart. So I'm going to try and put half a quart in here and then see if it's spilling out. It usually takes between 2.4 and 2.6 quarts. Almost at half a quart. Seem to have a little bit of fluid seepage, so I'm going to just put a dot worth. Not quite. Actually, not quite. Alright, that just went down. Yep, there it is. Or just at, like, I can feel it, like it just barely started to weep out of the fill hole here. That's crazy. And I'm right at 2.5 quarts. 2.5 quarts it is. That's what this is getting today. So you just pull the tube out. Take your drain plug. Reach in there and, yeah, if you can touch fluid, you got enough. That's what they say. Dab around there. Put it on the hole. And it goes right in. There's really nothing to show because it's so easy to do. Now all I got to do is put the wheel back on and I'm done. So, remember earlier I said, oh, it looks like I might have a little transmission leak. Well, I do. Looks like the passenger side axle seal might be leaking. On that side, it's actually a jack shaft, and then there's a CV axle on the far side. Wait for the car to go by. So anyway, I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll worry about it in the spring. I'm not going to mess with it. Anyway, I'm just going to slap the wheel back on real quick. So these are my old style lug nuts on this side. These are the new ones I got from Amazon. You actually don't need the tool to install them, but I'm going to use it anyway, just to see how it works. But they should look like they should fit a little bit better. Let's try and put a set on. These wheels I'm putting on are Rota Slipstream wheels, and I've always liked them. And then Keith had the same sense of style as me, and he really liked them. So that's what he put on the car, and that's what I want to keep on the car. That works pretty well. They don't look that bad from this angle. Let's take an RT angle of this. So, I don't think the lug nuts look that bad. So I'm just going to put them on the rest of the car. If you like what I'm doing, like the video, share it with some friends, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Instagram. I'm thinking about making a JR wrenching Instagram, just because, rather than using my personal one. But yeah, just let me know if you like what I'm doing. Let me know if you don't like what I'm doing, if you want me to change up what I'm doing a little bit. But that's what I'm doing today. I think next I'm going to actually fix the windows on my wife's wagon so we can actually start using it. And then I might actually assemble a motor for the daily. So if you want to see me do stuff like that, follow along, and if you don't, let me know what you want to see me do. So thanks for watching. Appreciate it.